Doctor, you're being childish.
Well, of course I am. There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometime.
Hi, Rich here. I'm walking out here because I got something I want to show you. It's a very wonderful medicinal plant, a shrub, a small tree, a bush, whatever you might want to consider. That what we're going for today is one of what we can't keep in center. Our survival school, known as Gateway Bushcrafting, has a set of concepts. One of the things we teach are core plants that you need to know. They're good for survival, they're good for medicine, food, and more than that. So they've got a whole set of uses. And one of the core plants for me is sumac. So we're going to discuss sumac. Okay. What we have here is a smooth sumac. Turn so I can see the camera. Now, I want you to notice these leaves. We have a stem that comes out, a branchlet that comes out, and we have opposite leaves on each side of it. At the tip here, I have a flower spike. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see the branch as well. The Staghorn Sumac will have hairy stem here. Since this is not a hairy stem, this being a smooth sumac. Now, you see this flower spike. I want you to notice a couple things about it. One, it's red. Two, it's at the very tip of the branch. And I'm standing on dry ground. These are all significant. If I was standing in a swamp, if I was standing in water, I might worry about poison sumac, but I'm not. So I'm not worried about poison sumac. Secondly, notice how these leaves here are long and lance-like. That means it's not poison sumac. Poison sumac, they would be shorter, rounder. They just wouldn't look the same. And then where each one of these little leaf stalks joins would be a single tier of white flowers coming down, and they would form white berries. If you've ever seen poison ivy berries, you would understand what type we're looking for, but there's going to come down at each section here. If you see a spike like this, I don't care what color you see it, it could be immature. If you see a spike like this at the tip, it is not, I repeat, not poison sumac. Now, we're waiting for this to turn to the right color. How will I know if this is ready to harvest and use? I'm going to touch it. It's slightly sticky. I can taste my hand. And there's a slight, very weak, acidic taste. So this spike is not mature enough to harvest yet. But we will keep track. And at some point, I will be harvesting a flower head. When we talk about sumacs, we talk often, you hear the term staghorn. Well, Staghorn Sumac, and it's not necessarily easily identified by these red berry heads. The red are on all the sumacs that are not poison. But what you'll find is this fuzz here. This is what defines it as a Staghorn Sumac versus a smooth sumac. Yeah, this is a Staghorn Sumac. This particular variety is what causes the brilliant green. Normally they're going to be more in this subdued color, but this is Staghorn. First off, notice it has these beautiful texture to the leaves. Secondly, if you look at the flower spikes, you'll see how absolutely tight these are. Okay. What we want to look at, though, are the new branches. So here, let's bring it into focus. You see the Oh, sorry for the camera shake. I just had a bug fly in my ear. Did you see that felt on there? It's like the felt on a young deer's antlers. That's why it's called a Staghorn Sumac. That's why it's called Staghorn Sumac. But you can see that Staghorn Sumac has those same beautiful clusters. They're smaller and they're tighter than on the smooth. If we go inside a branch here, you'll be able to see it has that fuzziness to it. So, Staghorn Sumac, the leaves are not smooth like the leaves of a smooth sumac, which is called smooth sumac because the stem is smooth. Staghorn Sumac isn't named for the leaves being this massive sawtooth, rather for the fuzz on the stem. Alright, so hopefully that'll help clear some things up. We're going to touch these and see how sticky they feel. And I'm going to taste. And these are capable of causing some puckering. Like this one is not sticky. So when I'm harvesting right now, I'm feeling for, is this in the acids I'm looking for? If it is, I will harvest the heads. So it's a question of feeling for sticky, right? And that's what we're looking for. The sticky resin. This has the ascorbic acids and acetic acids. Take these back and show these to you up close more in a little while. We're going to get away from some of the noises. I'm far enough off the road that these are safe from pollutants, but at the same time there's enough traffic and people have vehicles that are noisy today. There's been a lot of motorcycle up and down, and I just want to be able to have you hear everything. We're going to discuss a lot of the medicinal uses of this, from kidney use to clearing out your kidneys to helping women with their milk production. The uses are many. It's used as a spice. We can use it for making flour. We'll discuss that here. Okay, here I have a sun tea pitcher. And I've just rinsed it out, so you're seeing some dampness on it. In here we have sumac heads that we just gathered. I got one in. I'm going to drop that second one in. Having tasted, I know this is enough to make my sumac aid. Now, I might, in some circumstances, think that I wanted to, add a third head, but I think this is more than sufficient. I'm going to add, This is going to sit in my refrigerator now for a few hours. I'm going to then take it and strain the liquid, and I'll show you that, and we will then put it back in here and we'll have our sumac aid. And if I really wanted strong, we could put one more head in there just because. There we go. Now, I'm not gonna, there's no bruising for heads or anything like that. We don't, if I heat this up, I can make a tea. This is just a sumac aid. Think lemonade. Let me show you, this is smooth sumac. So, get it out of the bag here. This is the flower head. If you get to a Staghorn Sumac, there'll be a lot of hairs on here. It's going to be much hairier than this smooth sumac. It's called the smooth sumac because the stems that would have been down in this part were smooth. There, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this in my lemonade pot just because it came off. The rest of this I'm going to store. It'll be part of stuff for future use. Medicinal properties. Now on the sumac, this is someone I work with. He and his wife also have a health food store, or had one. This is something they sold, so he was not familiar with this product. Turkish sumac, and or here it's spelled with just S-U-M-A-C, which is the way we would spell it. If you were over there, it would be spelled S-U-M-A-C-H. And it is used as a seasoning and other things. This is the way they sold it with this bottle. And just get my hand into view. This is the put on top of your food. And the seasoning they used was the berries from the smooth sumac. You can look right here. You see that white? That's the acid that gives the tartness to our sumac aid here. There are 3 different chemicals that are going to be leaching out. I'm not heating the water so the tannins won't be leaching, but it contains this stuff right here. This is acid that contains ascorbic acid, malic acid, and oxalic acid. If you remember that. The oxalic acid is the acid, the thing that gives a tartness to the sorrel. So if you find wood sorrel, it's the oxalic acid. This is what I consider one of the core plants when we teach core in my survival training school, my bushcrafting school. Right. To be a core plant, the plant must be edible, medicinal, easy to identify, and easy to figure out, easy to use. Alright, so what do we use on the sumac? Okay, well, we're going to use almost every part of the sumac. So the sumac has, I'm trying to figure out a way to get this all in focus, but I guess I'll just do this. No, just can't do it. Alright, right there. Alright, so the sumac in and of itself, medicinal properties from using the whole plant, all the parts listed. It's both emetic and antiemetic. It's an antidiarrheal. It's antihemorrhagic. It's used as a cold treatment for treatment of asthma, tuberculosis, sore throat, for treating the eyes, the ears, the heart, well, almost everything. So let's break it down, how we're going to use it part by part. By the way, Rus is the generic name, or the genus name for this. And so this is smooth. So this is Rus glabra, and the staghorn will be taphina. So what can we do with sumac? Well, if we use the bark, which, barely visible in that picture. If we use the bark, it has antiseptic properties, astringent properties. It can be used to strengthen the system of a young mother, to bolster the blood and everything about that's involved with breastfeeding and whatnot. And it can be used to treat uterine prolapse. The inner bark, when we get down to that, the cabin layer, is used for treatment of piles. The roots, they're astringent. They're used as a blood purifier, a diuretic, an emetic, and boils. So remember that part, that the roots are used for their emetic properties. Antiemetic properties come from other parts. The roots, when combined with echinacea, the purple coneflower, were used successfully by the Native Americans to treat venereal diseases. The leaves, they are astringent. They contain a large amount of tannins, and they were used to treat asthma, diarrhea, and sores in the mouth. The fruit, these parts here, because of there are tannins in the stems and all, they contain all these wonderful acids you can see. The fruits were used for their astringent properties. They were a blood purifier. They would treat diarrhea, and they would increase your appetite. So if you were sick, a tea made with these, the infusion, was very, very helpful. And you could just drink this tea to treat a sore throat. So that was another good property. Also, if you take this and chop the stems up, you can get some sap. That sap was actually used with great success for treating warts. So while my first choice for treating warts would tend to be milkweed, with some effort I can get the sap out of here, and it was a very successful treatment for that. Other uses for the plant, because to be a core plant, it also has to have uses that extend beyond just medicinal and edible. The wood is fairly soft, and it has a pithy core. So we could take some dried wood, split it out, and get out the pith. And the pith was used in dyeing things. And as a matter of fact, the entire sumac plant was, and you could get a lot of different colors from a sumac. First off, the tannins in here and all are a fixative for dye. So whenever you would use them in conjunction with other things, some mordant, it would make the dyes permanent or more permanent. If you use the leaves, you would get a brown dye. If you use the roots, you could, the root bark, any of the barks, but especially the root bark, you get a yellow dye. If you use the pith and the inner bark and add that to bloodroot, you got orange dye, a really beautiful orange. And if you use the fruits and the leaves, you could get a black dye. So dyes are also another thing you can do with the sumac. But the wood, back to the wood, you could split the wood, hollow out the core, and use it for making things like a Native American style flute. You could take the branches, hollow out that pithy part, and then it made a straw that if you needed to drink through, you could. Remember, this tannin, so it's going to be very bitter. But it was very useful for things like if you were tapping a maple tree, you could make a hole, shove that in, and it would be useful for catching the dripping of the maple. In the fall, when the leaves would turn red, the Native Americans would gather those leaves, especially the Plains Indians, and they would be added to tobacco for ceremonial use. Has no nicotine or anything like that. It is not a narcotic, but it would help induce very vivid, lucid dreams. So you would use it now, and then later in the evening, the effects would be noticed. The wood, let me move this. It's not real visible here. I'll get some stems out later that are dried. But the wood is yellow. The wood also is one of the very unique things in that it fluoresces. How many woods have you ever seen that'll fluoresce? Well, this one will. The seeds that are inside this fruit, okay, we can take the fruit, we can get the seeds, and the seeds can be processed into flour. But we can also process an oil out of the seeds that after we process it will set up. It's not like a normal oil, it's more of a grease, and then it'll set up solid. And it actually will make candles like tallow. It'll set up and be solid at most temperatures. So I can get so many uses of this. I can dye, I can have medicinal uses, food use. Oh, I didn't mention that, did I? The roots are edible. The young growth shoots were edible. And the Apache children, they would actually, off this smooth, they would take the bark and it would be eaten as a taste treat. Oh, and one thing that is a potential concern, the sumac is related to mangoes and cashews, so anybody with a food allergy to mangoes or cashews would probably want to avoid this plant. But it has so many uses. It's so easy to identify, and these spikes are just superbly great examples of how you can identify something. So under the core plants, this is the first one that we're going to discuss, and that is the sumac. Lots and lots of medicinal uses, lots of edible food uses, lots of uses beyond. Like I said, I'll show you some of them. This piece of wood is sumac. So, take my Mora knife here, and you see here the pith. I can chew that out, and if I carefully work on it, I can take all this pith right here out of, and I'll have a nice channel. Now, we've already discussed there are good uses for this pith, both medicinal as properties and for dye. So, something I wouldn't want to throw away. That trough could then be utilized in a lot of ways, but by taking this entire piece of wood, a smaller one could be used for making a straw, a pipe stem, things like that. The wood here, you can see has this beautiful yellow color to it. If I bring it here on the end, I've done some stuff with this, but you see that pith right there is what we're going to remove for making straws, things like that. I could take this, split it, and with some effort turn this into a flute. If I had the chance, I could show you that this would actually fluoresce. This wood will light up under a black light, so that's pretty cool. This is just a wonderful, wonderful plant that it doesn't do it any justice if you don't show all its uses. So I wanted to really show you guys this stuff, and I will come back later when my sumac aid is ready, and we'll show you the things we're going to be dealing with. Just a reminder of the sumac. spice that you can get in the Mediterranean. This is the sumac seed head. I just happen to still have the sumac wood and got my Mora knife with it. I'll move some of these off to the side. Here I have a pan, and this is a t-shirt. Now let me show you, I don't know how well it'll show up on here, but there is a bunch of dark stains on this shirt. I only pour this through a little bit. Remember that I can make a permanent dye with this, and every time I use this t-shirt, now it's clean and it gets washed very, very well, but that stain won't come out because that stain is from sumac. So I'm going to use this clean t-shirt. I've got my sumac here, and I'm going to take it, pull the berries out, and put them in, put all of it in this pan. I'm pulling the berries up because it'll make it easier to pour. Now that has really filled my pan. I'm going to go take this in off camera, wash it to get all of the, any hairs that could be in here out. When I pour this over, I'll be concerned about it splashing, but I'll deal with that. And I'm back. And I'm taking the t-shirt, put it in here. You'll notice that that dark spot fits that very well because that's how it got there. There's so much liquid in this pan. I'm going to take my flower heads, set them aside to another container so I can try to transfer this. These heads I will keep dry them. These heads I'll keep. I'm going to dry them, and they'll be usable for making breads and stuff. And you think you're going to get a pink color, but not necessarily. If you look at this, it has an orangish color. See all the seeds that have floated loose. There may be grasses from I picked berries. Grasses won't hurt. The brewing, you can't wash this off a header. You've washed away the acids. Remember, there's 3 acids: ascorbic, malic, and oxalic acid. So I don't want to lose those. Look and see how we are depth, height. We're doing good. I'm gonna bring that up. Now begin to pour over. No, still gonna need that in there. Checking the level on my sun tea jar. empty pitcher there. So, now that this is done, yeah, I could wring it out. I'm just going to take it, transfer it. Here I have clear Coke glass. I'll put the lid on this. There's a couple of flies buzzing around here. But this is glorious. So, it doesn't matter if I'm using, which type I'm using. Make you a batch of this. See how strong you like it and adjust it accordingly. It doesn't require sugar, but you might enjoy it. Depends on how you enjoy sour. Plain and simple. So, this is Rich with Spirit of Wild Wings, bringing you one of the core plants from our Gateway Bushcrafting in depth. So it doesn't matter how you prepare this as far as smooth sumac, staghorn, winged, whatever. So this is the first in a series of core plants. Once again, if you haven't tried this, it has sort of a think of a lemonade but with a floral fruity overtone. Kind of fun, guys. This is something really tasty. Rich here at Spirit of Wild Wings, reminding you to get up, get out, get in the woods, and let's hope to see you there. This is that sumac that we were looking at. We carved the pith out of. You can't see it quite there. Must have been if we turn the light out. And yes, the wood fluoresces.